The massive ships appeared without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning in 2157. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, 7 enormous vessels hung in orbit, each one larger than humanity's biggest space station. All across Earth, communications went crazy. Television broadcasts interrupted regular programs. Phone networks jammed with calls. Social media exploded with images of the alien ships captured from ground telescopes. Commander Jack Russell had just finished his morning coffee at North American Space Defense Force headquarters when the alarm sounded. Within minutes, he was in the command center staring at the main screen in disbelief. "Are those what I think they are?" he asked his second-in-command. "Yes, sir," she replied. "Alien vessels. Nothing in our records matches their design. They're not responding to any of our hails." Jack took a deep breath. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Keep trying all frequencies," he ordered, "and notify the president." 3 hours later, Jack found himself aboard Earth's largest space shuttle, heading toward the alien vessels. With him were 5 other high-ranking military officers and 3 civilian scientists. None of them had slept. All of them felt the weight of being humanity's first delegation to an alien species. "Approaching the largest vessel," announced the pilot. "They've opened what appears to be a docking bay." Jack straightened his uniform. "Take us in." The shuttle entered the massive alien ship, landing in a bay large enough to hold 50 such shuttles. The air was tested and found breathable. After a tense discussion, Jack led the delegation out to meet whatever waited for them. They were greeted by tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and large, black eyes. The aliens wore ornate robes covered in symbols. One stepped forward, holding a small device. "We are the emissaries of the Galactic Council," the device translated in a flat, mechanical voice. "I am Zathkar of the Norvanian Empire, senior major of the Council." And so began humanity's first contact with alien life. The initial meetings seemed promising. The aliens explained that they represented a federation of species spanning the galaxy. They expressed interest in Earth's cultures and technologies. They shared information about their own civilizations and histories. But by the 3rd day, the truth became clear. Earth will be incorporated into the Galactic Council as a protectorate, Zathkar announced to a room full of world leaders gathered in New York. "This is a great honor. You will receive the benefits of council membership and protection." Admiral Susan Miller, recently appointed as head of the United Earth Defense Council, stepped forward. "And what does this protectorate status entail?" Zathkar's black eyes blinked slowly. "A simple arrangement. Earth will provide resources as needed by the Council. Your technological development will be guided along approved paths. Your expansion beyond this solar system will be limited to areas designated for human settlement." The room grew quiet as the implications became clear. "That sounds like colonization, not partnership," Susan said, her voice steady despite her anger. Zathkar made a gesture that the humans would later learn was the equivalent of a dismissive shrug. "Call it what you wish. These are the Council's terms. They are non-negotiable. All species join under similar arrangements." World leaders argued for hours after the aliens left the room. Some wanted to accept the terms, fearing the alternative. Others demanded resistance. In the end, they agreed to ask for time to consider. When Susan Miller presented their request to Zathkar, the alien seemed amused. "Your species thinks itself special? That you deserve consideration not given to others?" Zathkar turned to one of his subordinates. "Show them why resistance is unwise." With a simple command, the aliens activated a device on their ship. Across Earth, every satellite in orbit suddenly went dead. Communication systems failed. Defense networks collapsed. The entire planet was digitally blinded in an instant. "That was a simple demonstration," Zathkar said coldly. "The Council could do much worse. You have 1 Earth week to formally accept our terms." After the aliens returned to their ships, emergency meetings were held in secret locations around the world. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials gathered to discuss their options. "We can't fight them," said one general. "You saw what they did to our satellites. They could probably wipe us out without landing a single soldier." "But we can't just surrender," argued a scientist from India. "These terms would make us slaves, not partners." In a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Susan Miller met with a small group of trusted advisors. "We need to appear to cooperate while secretly preparing," she told them. "If we reject their terms openly, they might destroy us. If we truly submit, we lose our freedom forever." Jack Russell, who had led the first contact team, nodded grimly. "So we pretend to accept their terms while building our strength in secret?" "Exactly," Susan said. "They don't know humans very well. They don't know our history. We've faced tyrants before." 1 week later, Earth's united government formally accepted the Council's terms. Zathkar seemed pleased but not surprised. The Council had subjugated hundreds of species across the galaxy. Humans were expected to fall in line like all the others. "You have made a wise choice," the alien leader told them. "Council representatives will remain on Earth to oversee the transition. Resource quotas will be established. All military vessels will be grounded except those approved for Council service." Susan Miller, standing with other Earth representatives, bowed her head in apparent submission. "We understand." But behind her calm expression, her mind was already working on plans for resistance. The aliens had shown their power, but they had also revealed something important. They expected obedience. They were used to species that surrendered easily. What the Galactic Council majors failed to understand was that humanity had a long history of fighting against those who would rule them. From ancient empires to modern dictatorships, humans had always resisted tyranny. The Council had demanded Earth's obedience. They would get a show of compliance for now. But in secret facilities across the planet and in hidden bases on the far side of the moon, humanity would prepare. The Galactic Council had made a critical mistake. They had threatened a species that had fought countless wars against oppressors. They had demanded submission from a planet that had produced freedom fighters in every generation. They would learn eventually that they should have studied human history before making demands. Because when pushed too far, humanity didn't give obedience, it gave war. Admiral Susan Miller walked through the underground facility, her footsteps echoing on the metal floor. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Council had forced Earth to accept their terms. 3 years of careful planning in secret while appearing to obey on the surface. "Status report, Dr. Banks?" she asked as she entered the main research lab. Alan Banks looked up from his workstation. Dark circles underlined his eyes. He hadn't slept properly in days, but excitement lit up his face. "We've made a breakthrough, Admiral. The Council's defense systems all use the same base programming language. They never expected anyone to study it from the inside." Susan nodded. This was exactly why they had created the Silent Rebellion plan. While Earth's governments publicly bowed to the Council's demands, a select group worked in hidden facilities like this one, studying alien technology and preparing for the day humans would fight back. "Show me," she said. Alan brought up a holographic display. "Their shields operate on a recognition system. They identify friendly ships by specific energy patterns. We've figured out how to copy those patterns." Colonel Patricia White joined them, carrying a tablet with military plans. "With this technology, our ships could approach Council installations without raising alarms. We could strike before they even know we're enemies." Susan studied the display. "How long until we can put this into production?" 6 months for full implementation across our secret fleet," Alan replied. "But we can outfit the first ships within weeks." The Admiral smiled. The Council majors thought humans were just another species to control. They were about to learn a hard lesson. Across the solar system, thousands of humans worked in similar secret facilities. On the dark side of the moon, engineers built ships with stolen and adapted Council technology. In underwater bases on Earth, weapons designers created systems specifically designed to target Council weaknesses. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council's central world, diplomat Eric Johnson sat through another tedious meeting. He wore the blue and gold robes that marked Earth's representatives, a symbol of their protectorate status. The human world will increase its titanium production by 15% as requested, Eric said, keeping his face neutral despite his disgust. We only ask for more time to establish the additional mining operations. Sathkar, the Norvanian leader of the council majors, waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. You have 2 Earth months, no more. The council requires these resources for our expansion in the Orion sector. Of course, Eric said with a slight bow. What he didn't mention was that those titanium shipments would be significantly lighter than reported, with the difference going to Earth's secret shipyards. As the meeting ended, Eric was approached by Krelmex, a minor council official who had always shown unusual interest in human affairs. Your species adapts quickly, Eric Johnson, the alien said, its 4 eyes blinking in an unsettling pattern. Most new protectorates struggle more with our requirements. Eric maintained his diplomatic smile. Humans have always been good at adapting. Indeed. Though our monitoring systems have detected unusual energy patterns near your southern pole. Perhaps your adaptation includes activities beyond your authorization. Eric's heart raced, but his face remained calm. Our southern regions have been developing geothermal energy to help meet the council's production quotas. I'll have a report sent to your office explaining the readings. After Krelmex moved away, Eric immediately sent an encrypted message back to Earth using a communication method developed by Dr. Banks that piggybacked on official council channels. The message was simple. Southern facility compromised. Possible investigation coming. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Olivia Martinez received the warning. As head of facility security, she had prepared for this possibility. Activate Protocol Shadow, she ordered her team. We have 60 hours before a council probe could reach our airspace. The southern facility, hidden beneath Antarctica's ice, was one of Earth's most important research centers. Losing it would set back the rebellion by years. Olivia's team worked quickly, disguising research equipment as environmental monitoring stations and hiding the facility's true power signature under a blanket of fake geothermal outputs. When a small council scout ship entered Earth's atmosphere 3 days later, it found exactly what Eric's report had claimed. A geothermal energy project helping poor humans meet their council quotas. The ship left, and Olivia allowed herself a small smile. Another close call survived. In his private office at the lunar base, General Frank Lee reviewed the plans for what would become humanity's first strike. 5,000 human soldiers had been requested by the Council to fight in their war against the Dravidian Collective. The Council saw this as just another way to use their new subjects. Humans saw it as an opportunity. Every soldier carries the nanites? Frank asked Captain Diane Rodriguez. Yes, sir. Disguised as mandatory vaccinations against alien diseases. The Council medical officers examined them and found nothing suspicious. And they're programmed correctly? Diane nodded confidently. Dr. Banks personally oversaw the programming. On your command, each soldier can activate them. The nanites will spread through the environmental systems of any Council facility our people enter. Frank studied the galactic map showing Council military installations. Once we disable their systems, our hidden fleet launches immediately? Yes, sir. Captain Rodriguez is standing by with the Defiance and 15 other ships. They'll strike these key points simultaneously, Diane said, highlighting several locations on the map. Frank took a deep breath. Soon they would reveal 3 years of secret preparation in one coordinated attack. The Council had never faced anything like what humanity was about to unleash. The Council believes they've seen all that humanity is, Frank said quietly. They think we're just another obedient species added to their collection. Their mistake, Diane replied. Their last mistake with us, Frank agreed. That night, as Earth rotated peacefully under the watchful eyes of Council monitoring satellites, final preparations were made across the solar system. In hidden shipyards, captains received their sealed orders. In secret training facilities, soldiers memorized their objectives. In laboratories, scientists made final adjustments to weapons designed to fight an empire. The Galactic Council majors had demanded Earth's obedience. In just a few weeks, they would discover that they had instead provoked humanity into giving them something very different. the first successful war against their rule in 14,000 years of galactic history, and somewhere on the Council's Central World diplomat Eric Johnson raised a glass in a toast with other alien representatives, smiling pleasantly, while counting down the days until everything would change. General Frank Lee stood before the 5,000 human soldiers gathered in the massive hangar bay of the Council's military station, orbiting Proxima Centauri's fourth planet. Each man and woman wore the standard gray uniform of Council Auxiliary Forces. Each carried within their bloodstream the tiny machines that would change the course of galactic history. "Today we serve," Frank announced loudly for the benefit of the Council observers at the back of the room. Then he dropped his voice to continue the hidden message all his soldiers had been trained to recognize. "With honor and remembrance of home." The phrase was simple, innocent sounding to alien ears, but to every human present it was the activation code. Within seconds, each soldier mentally triggered the nanites in their bloodstream using the biofeedback techniques they had practiced. For months, the Council had checked these humans for weapons. They had scanned them for explosives and communication devices. They had never thought to look for microscopic machines swimming in human veins, programmed to interface with Council technology. Frank watched his timepiece. In exactly 12 minutes, those nanites would begin their work across 12 critical Council installations throughout the galaxy. Every human soldier had been specifically assigned to facilities where they could do the most damage. On the bridge of the EDS Defiance, hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid in Earth's solar system, Captain Diane Rodriguez received the signal. Liberation. "Protocols active," her communications officer reported. "General Lee has given the go code." Diane took a deep breath. This moment had been 3 years in the making. "Power up all systems. Prepare jump drives." Around her, 14 other hidden warships received the same signal. Built in secret, these vessels incorporated stolen Council technology with human innovations. They were smaller than Council battleships, but faster and more maneuverable. "Time to activation?" Diane asked. 10 minutes, Captain." She nodded. "All crew to battle stations." Back on the Council station, Frank casually checked his watch again. 2 minutes remaining. He glanced around the hangar and saw his soldiers dispersing to their assigned positions. Some headed for environmental control centers. Others moved toward weapon stations or communication hubs. A tall, blue-skinned Council officer approached him. "Your troops seem eager to begin their service," the alien said. Frank nodded respectfully. "Humans have always been known for our enthusiasm." At that moment, across the galaxy, 5,000 humans released invisible swarms of nanites into Council systems. The tiny machines slipped through air filtration systems, floated through water recycling units, and crawled into electronic access ports. Frank's watch beeped softly. It was time. The lights on the station flickered. Then the artificial gravity wavered. Confusion spread across the alien officer's face. "What is happening?" the Council officer demanded. Frank allowed himself a small smile. "I believe the correct term is rebellion." The station's alarms began to wail, but the automated defense systems remained silent. Emergency doors designed to seal off sections during an attack stayed open. Communication systems went dead. Throughout the galaxy, on 12 critical Council installations, the same chaos erupted simultaneously. Defense shields dropped. Weapon systems went offline. Communication arrays fell silent. In Earth's solar system, 15 warships appeared from hiding and jumped into Council space using the very jump coordinates that Earth's undercover operatives had collected over the past 3 years. The EDS Defiance emerged from its jump directly in front of the Council's largest fuel production facility near Sirius. The facility's defenses were already compromised by nanites released by the human soldiers stationed there. "Target their main production hub," Captain Rodriguez ordered. "Fire when ready." The Defiance's main weapons, based on modified Council technology, fired with devastating accuracy. The facility's fuel stores ignited, creating a chain reaction that tore through the massive structure. Similar scenes played out across Council space. as Earth's small but lethal fleet struck with surgical precision at targets chosen to maximize damage while minimizing alien casualties. This wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. On Earth, Admiral Susan Miller watched reports flood in from across the galaxy. 3 years of planning was finally in action. The first phase was going exactly as they had hoped. "Status report," she demanded from the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. "All 12 primary targets successfully compromised," her aide reported. "Nanite infiltration achieved 94% effectiveness rate. Our fleet has destroyed or disabled 15 critical council facilities." Susan nodded with grim satisfaction. "And casualties?" "Minimal as planned. Most council personnel were evacuated or contained rather than eliminated. This had been one of the most important parts of the plan. Humans would not become mass murderers, even against those who had oppressed them. The goal was to cripple the council's ability to respond, not to slaughter aliens." On the council's central world, the 7 council majors gathered in emergency session. Zath Kar, their leader, was livid. "How is this possible?" he roared. "These primitives were barely in space when we found them." An intelligence officer trembled as he delivered more bad news. "We're receiving reports of similar attacks on 30 other installations. Our defense network is compromised. We cannot coordinate a response." Another council major, the reptilian Vexnar, hissed in anger. "In 14,000 years, no species has dared to rebel this way. The humans must be made an example of," Zathkar declared. "Prepare the planet cleansers." But when they tried to access their most powerful weapons, they discovered those systems too had been locked by human infiltration programs. Back on the Proxima Centauri station, General Lee and his soldiers had secured control. The council personnel were contained but unharmed. "Message from Earth Command," his communications officer reported. "Phase 1 complete. Initiate Phase 2. Frank turned to address the captured council officers. "For 3 years you believed we were obedient. You were wrong. Humanity does not bow to tyrants. Today we have disabled military installations across your empire. Tomorrow we free every species you've enslaved." One of the alien officers, wiser than most, asked the question they were all thinking. "How did you do this?" "We monitored everything." Frank allowed himself a small smile. "You monitored what we wanted you to see. You should have studied our history more carefully. Humans have been resisting empires since before we left our own planet. As reports of the successful first strike spread throughout human settlements across the solar system, celebrations began, but military leaders like Diane Rodriguez knew better than to celebrate too early. "This is just the beginning," she told her crew, as the Defiance moved to its next target. "They've ruled the galaxy for 14,000 years. They won't surrender." After one day of defeats, she was right. Even as humans celebrated their first victories, the Council was rallying its vast forces. What had begun as a carefully planned first strike would soon become a full-scale galactic war. 6 months after humanity's first strike, the rebellion had grown into a full galactic war. What began as a human fight for freedom had sparked something larger. Other species, long oppressed by the Council, saw humans standing up and chose to join them. Admiral Susan Miller studied the galactic map in Earth's main command center. Red dots showed Council strongholds. Blue marked human and allied positions. Yellow indicated active battle zones. There were too many yellow dots. "The Council has destroyed New Terra Colony," reported her intelligence officer. "Estimated civilian casualties 2.4 million. The room fell silent. New Terra had been one of Earth's first colonies, a peaceful settlement of scientists and farmers. Susan closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself one moment of grief before returning to the steel resolve that had guided humanity through these difficult months. "Implement Hydra Protocol," she ordered. "For every human settlement they destroy, we target 3 Council facilities." Her staff moved quickly to relay the orders to fleet commanders spread across 17 star systems. On the edge of Council space, Captain Steve Harrison of the EDS Liberator received the news about New Terra while his ship was hiding in an asteroid field. "Those monsters," muttered his navigator. "They're targeting civilians now." Steve's jaw tightened. "We have new orders. Hydra Protocol is in effect. The crew knew what that meant. Their mission had just changed from reconnaissance to attack. The Liberator emerged from the asteroid field and set course for a nearby Council prison world. Intelligence suggested it held important political prisoners, including members of the Makari royal family. The crystalline Makari had been subjugated by the Council centuries ago, but their advanced technology could be valuable to the human cause. Approaching prison world, announced the pilot. Council defenses detected. Steve leaned forward. Begin approach pattern Delta. Activate stealth systems. The Liberator slipped past the outer defenses using technology reverse engineered. From Council designs, human engineers had made significant improvements, creating stealth capabilities the Council had never developed. When the alarms finally sounded on the prison world, the Liberator was already in position. Strike teams deployed to the surface, while the ship engaged the orbital defenses. 2 hours later, Steve welcomed aboard 7 crystalline beings, their faceted bodies reflecting the ship's lights in dazzling patterns. "I am Crystal, heir to the Makari Collective," said the tallest of them. "You have our gratitude, humans." Steve bowed slightly. "We fight for freedom, yours as well as ours." "The Makari have not forgotten how to fight," replied Crystal. "Return us to our homeworld and we will join your war." Within weeks, Makari crystal ships joined the human fleet, bringing weapons technology that the Council had suppressed for centuries. Back on Earth, Chief Engineer Lisa Cooper worked frantically in her lab. The Council's retribution for New Terra showed they were escalating the conflict. Earth needed better defenses. "Try the modification again," she told her team, wiping sweat from her forehead. They had captured a Council destroyer during the early days of the war. For months, Lisa had been studying its primary weapon, a particle beam that could slice through Earth's best shields. The test shield activated, glowing blue in the massive testing chamber. The captured weapon fired. The shield flickered but held. Lisa checked her readings and allowed herself a small smile. "It worked. Get this to production immediately." The modified shield design was quickly implemented across the human fleet and Earth's defense stations. For the first time, humanity could withstand direct hits from the Council's primary weapons. When the Council launched a major assault on the human colony in the Tau Ceti system, they expected another easy victory. Instead, their ships found their beams absorbed by the new shields. As they adjusted their attack strategy, human ships emerged from hiding and counterattacked. The Council lost 23 warships in what became known as the Battle of Tau Ceti. Human and allied forces lost only 4. In response, Admiral Miller implemented the next phase of the Hydra Protocol. 3 Council facilities were targeted in retaliation, including their main antimatter production facility in the Sirius system. The Council had always relied on overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. They hadn't fought a real war in thousands of years. Most species surrendered quickly when faced with Council might. But humans fought differently. Instead of meeting the massive Council fleets head-on, human ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and disappearing before the Council could respond. They targeted supply lines and fuel depots rather than military strongholds. They fought like guerrillas in space, wearing down the larger force through constant harassment. Admiral Zathkar, who had personally taken command of the Council war effort, grew increasingly frustrated. "These humans are not fighting properly," he complained to his war council. "They refuse to meet us in honorable battle." His intelligence officer, who had studied human history, replied quietly, "They fight to win, Admiral, not for honor." On the human colony world of Glisa, General Frank Lee coordinated with other species who had joined the human cause. Representatives from 7 formerly subjugated races gathered in an underground bunker as Council ships bombarded the surface above. "The Council is sending their main fleet to crush us here," Frank told them. "They think if they destroy enough of our worlds, we will surrender." A representative of the bird-like Avari trilled softly. "They do not understand freedom, do they?" "No," agreed Frank. "That is why we will win in the end." The Allied forces on Glisa evacuated most civilians through secret tunnels, leaving behind automated defenses. When the Council landed ground forces expecting to find a broken population ready to surrender, they walked into a trap. The resulting battle cost the Council thousands of troops and gave the Allies time to reinforce other positions. The war spread across more star systems as more species joined the human-led rebellion. The Makari crystal ships provided enhanced communication technology. The Avari contributed their atmospheric fighters. Each species brought unique strengths to the alliance. 7 years into the war, neither side had achieved complete victory. The Council still controlled most of the galaxy, but their grip was slipping. Humanity and their allies held 17 key star systems and had established a defensive perimeter that the Council struggled to breach. In her command center, Admiral Miller received word that the Council was gathering the largest fleet in their history for a final push against the Yao rebellion. They're assembling near Arcturus, her intelligence officer reported. At least 3,000 ships. Susan studied the map. They're getting desperate. They've never committed this many resources to one battle. It could be the end of us if they break through, someone said. Susan shook her head. Or it could be the end of them. Contact Admiral Baker. I think it's time for Operation Neutron Star. After 7 years of bloodshed, the war was approaching its climax. At Arcturus, the Council would commit their full might against the human-led alliance. Victory or defeat for either side would reshape the galaxy forever. Admiral Kevin Baker stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant, the largest warship humans had ever built. Around him, officers worked quietly at their stations. The ship was hiding behind the third moon of a gas giant near Arcturus. Ahead of them, just beyond sensor range, waited the largest Council fleet ever assembled. Status report, Kevin said. All ships in position, Admiral, his first officer replied. The Makari crystal ships are cloaked near the neutron star. Avari fighters are standing by. Human and allied vessels are in formation. Kevin nodded. For 7 years, the galaxy had burned in war. Today might finally end it. Send the signal, he ordered. Operation Neutron Star begins now. A small group of human ships appeared at the edge of the Arcturus system, seemingly damaged and fleeing. Council sensors detected them immediately. They've taken the bait, reported the tactical officer. Council fleet is pursuing. Kevin allowed himself a small smile. The Council's pride and arrogance had made them predictable. They saw an easy victory and couldn't resist. All ships maintain positions, he ordered. Wait for the gravitational marker. The massive Council armada, 3,000 ships strong, moved deeper into the system, chasing what they thought were crippled human vessels. The Council majors themselves were present on their flagship, ready to witness the final destruction of the troublesome humans. What the Council didn't realize was that they were being drawn into a carefully prepared trap. The human ships led them closer and closer to the system's neutron star. They've crossed the marker, announced the science officer. The neutron star's gravitational field is affecting their drive systems now. Near the neutron star, faster than light, travel became impossible. Conventional engines struggled against the powerful gravity. The Council ships, large and less maneuverable than human vessels, would find themselves restricted to a narrow corridor of safe space. All ships, attack pattern Omega, Kevin ordered. From their hiding places around the system, hundreds of human and allied ships appeared. The cloaked Makari crystal ships decloaked behind the Council fleet. Avari fighters swarmed from carriers. The trap was sprung. The Council fleet found itself caught between the neutron star's gravity well and the attacking Allied forces. Their massive ships, designed for overwhelming power rather than maneuverability, couldn't turn quickly enough to face threats from multiple directions. Focus fire on their command ships, Kevin ordered. The battle raged for hours. Council ships exploded into bright flashes against the backdrop of space. Human and allied vessels took damage but kept fighting. The Makari crystal ships projected energy fields that disrupted Council weapon systems. Avari fighters darted between larger vessels, targeting engines and weapons. On the Council flagship, Zathkar watched in disbelief as his fleet was torn apart. "This cannot be happening," he said. "We are the Council. We have ruled for 14,000 years. His tactical officer looked up with fear in his 4 eyes. The humans have disabled our engines. We cannot escape. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council faced defeat. As the battle ended, the Allied forces had lost nearly a third of their ships, but the Council fleet had been devastated. Over 2,000 Council vessels had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining Council ships surrendered when they saw their flagship captured. Kevin Baker personally led the boarding party onto the Council flagship. There he found 3 of the 7 Council majors, including Zathkar himself. In 14,000 years, Zathkar said bitterly, no species has ever defeated us. Kevin looked at the alien ruler steadily. Perhaps it's time for a change. 2 months later, representatives from all species gathered on Earth's moon for the signing of the Treaty of Luna. The Marble Hall had been built specifically for this historic event. Diplomat Grace Bennett represented humanity. She stood before the assembled delegates, her gray hair gleaming in the artificial light. The war is over, she announced. Today we establish a new galactic order. Not one of masters and servants, but of equals. The treaty dissolved the old council system. In its place, a new galactic assembly would be formed, with representatives from all species having equal voices. The remaining council majors were stripped of their special status but allowed to participate as equals. No species shall claim dominion over another, Grace read from the treaty text. All have the right to govern themselves, develop their own technologies, and explore the stars freely. Former council races struggled to accept their new status, but they had no choice. Their military had been broken at Arcturus. Their economy was in shambles after 7 years of war, and most importantly, dozens of formerly subjugated species had tasted freedom and would never accept the old order again. In a hospital room on Earth, Jack Russell, the first human to make contact with the Galactic Council all those years ago, watched the signing ceremony on a screen. Now an old man, he had lived to see humanity rise from an isolated world to a major galactic power. A nurse adjusted his pillows. What do you think of the treaty, Admiral Russell? Jack smiled weakly. I think we gave them more than they expected. 20 years after that first contact, the galaxy had been transformed. The new Galactic Assembly headquarters on Mars welcomed representatives from 53 species. The Great Hall was circular, with no seat higher than others, symbolizing the equality of all. Ambassador Peter Collins, Earth's first representative to the Assembly, stood to address the historic first session. We gather here today as equals, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. The journey to this moment has been costly. Millions died in the war for freedom. But their sacrifice has created something unprecedented, a galaxy where all species determine their own destiny. He looked around at the diverse beings filling the chamber. Crystalline Makari, feathered Avari, the amphibious Nortax, and dozens more, including the former council races. Let us remember the lesson that changed our galaxy, Peter continued. Freedom is never given. It must be won. Humanity was asked for obedience, but instead we gave war, and through that war we have all found peace and equality. As the new Galactic Assembly began its work, ships from dozens of worlds traveled freely between stars. Species that had been restricted to their home planets for millennia now established colonies. Technologies that had been suppressed by the HFY Council for their own advantage were shared openly. The Council majors had demanded Earth's obedience. Instead, humanity had given them war, and ultimately, a better galaxy for everyone.